The Seed School of Los Angeles County Board of Directors meeting, May 12th, 2021 is called to order at 9:04. Woody, would you like to do the roll call?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Just respond with present if you are in fact here. Miss Isabella Costa.
Present.
Miss Sarah Ali.
Present.
Miss Sophia Echeverria. Mr. Rod Hamilton. Dr. Jackie Kimbrough. I see. Miss Jennifer Price Lester.
Here.
And Miss Ruth Salford.
Present.
We have quorum, and then also, as usual, acknowledging and hoping everyone accept that this meeting will be recorded.
Woody, did you get me? Jackie Kimbrough.
Oh, no, I called you Jackie. I thought you looked like you were reading something, so I just said present for you.
No, I was here. I think you guys faded out on me, or I faded out on you. Okay, thank you.
Duly noted. We got to record it.
Thanks.
Okay, so the first order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes. There are a bunch. They've been circulated. We will approve them in total. But first I need to ask if there are, unless there are edits, in which case then we will, make the edits and corrections. So assuming, I know the minutes have been circulated. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? And does anyone have any changes, additions, corrections? If you do, let us know. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have a request. I know that this is a burden to ask, but I'm asking if we could limit the amount of minutes that we get bundled up as, to 3 board meetings past, because my memory from February is not as clear as I would like it to be. So as I was reading through the minutes, I didn't see any blatant errors, but I did want to ask that when guests are acknowledged on the minutes, that we state where the guests are from. So for Ron and Brian in particular, like it kind of seemed out of nowhere that we had these guests attending the board meetings with us.
Yep, great point, Isabel. I think we also should not only acknowledge it in the minutes, but I talked to Woody about this exact thing, about also acknowledging it either if we're continuing to do this by Zoom, which may change, right? But if we do, then we can ask for the title next to their name so that we understand, or at least the organization, so we know where people are coming from. That will help as well. So, yep. Yes, it's a lot to digest. It's also not just going back in time. It's also just a lot to read, Okay, so but in terms of the actual minutes, are there any corrections that anyone spotted? Any need to change anything? Okay.
Just actually one point of clarification. Do we really have 300 outstanding requests for funding support? I saw that in the last meeting minutes, where it lists a number of 300.
Yeah, we will actually get to that when we're talking about the fundraising update. Yes, there's a lot out there, and I know Becca and Rebecca.
Okay.
And
300 sounds like a lot.
It
Beyond it. Yeah, that's not
It
possible.
Is it 30 perhaps?
Yeah, possibly 30, not
Okay.
300.
Oh,
so if we can just correct that on the
right,
minutes.
that's correct. Yep. Okay. Yep. Sorry, I wasn't following it. Gotcha, Isabel. Thanks. Which was it in the April 27th?
April 27th minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
So making the correction of not 300, but 30 in the April 27th, 2021 board meeting minutes. That's the only correction. So the Cdla board moves to approve all the previous meeting minutes, inclusive of this edit that we just mentioned, the 30, as presented at the May 12th, 2021 meeting, pending the mentioned revisions. Since there's so many, let's all vote. All those in favor say aye. Second, we need a second, sorry.
Second. That's
Thank
Jen.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jen.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Is that everybody? I'm here too.
Ruth was an aye. Jen was an aye. I don't know if we heard Isabel, Sarah, or Jackie.
I see Sarah with the thumbs up.
Jackie is an aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Isabel.
Aye for Sarah.
Okay. Thank you. Ayes are unanimous. Minutes are approved. Sorry. Moving on to the finance update. Anita.
I'm not quite sure. We didn't prepare a whole finance update, but we closed. That was the biggest finance update I've got for you.
That is the.
That's the update. We
Pretty big.
closed very complex financing, and it was quite a big task, quite a big feat, and it worked. Yeah, so that is it. In the future, maybe what I would say is in the coming up, there are a few things that this board would have to do. One is approve a Cdla budget for next year, next fiscal year, starting July 1. And technically Cdla is a charter school. And there's also a seed facilities budget, but most of it, correct me if I'm wrong, Neela, but all of the construction is really running through seed facilities, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Cdla budget, this is previewing because it does have to, by state law, it has to be approved by the board by June 30th. LACO has an earlier date that I'm not quite sure of yet, but whatever, it needs to be approved pretty soon. We haven't prepared it, and the budget has to be with existing resources, so it can't be based on fundraising. So we will take the so that's something that Woody, Leslie, Neela, and I will work on, what the existing resources are, and then put it in. Imagine a relatively small budget, probably under $1 million. Which is more for operations, staffing, pay, etc. And so we will present that. Next up, we'll also present an ex-ed contract to do the back office accounting for Cdla, as well as seed facilities and all the construction draws. That would be paid through the budget, or it's shown on the budget, but it's a separate contract. And the next other item that needs to come up, this is a preview for the next meeting of items, is choosing an auditor for 2021. So because Cdla had more than 2 million revenue, it needs an audit. And we're probably going to recommend, but usually we don't recommend auditors, but because this is such a unique situation with this new markets financing, there are very few auditors who understand it, and Novogradac does. So I'm hoping that one will work, but we need to get a little bit of approval from LACO to do that, because they're not a charter school auditor, but this isn't a charter school audit. Jennifer? Go.
With respect to that, is now the moment then that we also have to stand up an audit committee that would actually engage the auditing firm on behalf of Cdla and move us forward?
Yeah, I think so, because you have more than 2 million, you need an audit committee. Good point.
Yeah, I think we just need to get the exact timeline. But yeah, that is for sure part of this step.
Yeah, and then I just want to note that because we actually did do a glimpse, Anita, I don't think you were at the last this meeting. We actually did do a forecast of what we think the expenses for Cdla are for this year. And so I don't want the board to actually think that that was not real and accurate information. It's just that there is a need to formalize it in light of the requirements that LACO has. And so I just want to note that.
And also, can I add on, at the next meeting, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anita, we'll also need to review the 990 as well.
No, not that it needs to be done. The 990 has to be submitted by May 15th, 17th, because it's a Monday. So the process has to be that then, but my sense is that it's okay if it's just sent out to everyone. The 990, so we need to get that out to everyone, and they don't have to approve it. They
Right.
just have to look at it. And so that we can check the box on the 990 that says they looked at it. So I would get that out. We have it, a draft already, and I would get it out as I think we do. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
Ryan is
right.
working on it. We had one missing piece of information that he needed yesterday that Rebecca and I were working on getting to him.
Okay, so that has to get out within a day or so. So everybody can look at it. And so Ruth or Leslie, I guess, signs it. I'm not sure. Leslie signs it. So which will be docu-signed and then submitted,
E-filed.
e-filed, yeah.
Mhm.
But what we're not saying is that you don't get to review it, right? Since we've already checked the box that says, has the board reviewed it? So
Yes, exactly.
despite the fact we're saying you have to do it quickly, I still would like for everyone to review it. Like, I want to be careful not to put on record that we're saying you don't get to review it. Please.
Right, and provided that it goes, to whatever, today's Wednesday, then, and the deadline is, it needs to be e-filed Monday, the 17th. So, Monday. Yep, okay. But I just want to quickly, I know I sent out an email about the financing closing, but I just wanted to acknowledge before we move on, the enormity of this, and that the amount of work and blood, sweat, and tears, and just volume of paperwork and managing so many different people and agendas, and this being a historic new markets tax credit allocation. So I just want to thank you all for all of the amazing work, and for, now we can start construction. It's incredible. So thank you all. I just wanted to make sure we didn't move on. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So now let's move to the construction update, unless there's anything else. So Sean, Laura, all yours.
Laura, do you want to take it?
Oh, I'm gonna say, you can have the honor if you want.
Good morning, everybody. Well,
Sean. Okay, yeah, just where I mean, there's so many things you could update. But so Ruth just said, so we could start construction. So can you sort of start there, like when we can start construction?
sure. So clearly the closing was the biggest trigger there. We've issued a notice to proceed to Bernard's. Oh, and we had to revise their contract, by the way, as part of the closing. So that was signed, I don't know, maybe 10 days ago. So that's behind us as well. That's good. I would say that construction is starting now. I think we have a fence up around at least part of the site. There was a lot of work to notify the vendors and others who had been occupying the site for a very long period of time. And from what I'm hearing, that's gone pretty well. I think there's one abandoned car that is still on the site that that the city is figuring out who owns that and how to get it out of there. But it's not owned by any of the, you know, the vendors who have actually been there recently. So it's more just removing that piece of metal. There's a little bit more utility relocation work that has to be done. Sewer line that runs up Vermont. The city is working on that and getting out of the way in time to not slow us down. We're concerned that it will slow us down, and we're developing a workaround for that right now. And once we get that resolved or get a good plan in place, which I think we'll have in the next, say, week, Bernard's will be able to start mass excavation and doing those sorts of things. But in the meantime, you know, fences going up, they're bringing a trailer on in the next couple of days. Temporary power, I think, will be there Monday. So things are rolling. And that whole path is now going to develop its own momentum. I know that you all and others have had to push this rock up the hill on your own. But there's going to be a whole new engine pushing it, you know, starting now, and pretty soon we're all going to feel like we're trying to keep up instead of doing the pushing ourselves, which is good and bad. But it's, in the end, it's good because there's a lot to do, and we need a big muscular engine behind it to make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Hi, it's Rod. It's Rod Hamilton. Good morning, everybody. What is the construction duration in the contract?
It's 22.5 months.
Okay, great. And so that's tracking from like last week when the NTP was issued, huh?
It is tracking from, it was the notice to proceed, the grading permit, and the insurance. And so I think, and Neela, you may have to chime in here, but I think that all of those things were on hand as of the end of last week.
Gotcha. Okay. So 22.5 months from now, we'll have a gleaming new building. Won't that be wonderful?
Yep.
Or maybe sooner, because I always like sooner, and maybe, you know, maybe it's less than 22 months.
You sound like a client.
Exactly, Rod. I actually want you to know that I was going to say, so says the client, but I decided not to sound so obnoxious. But it doesn't surprise Sean that I think it could take less than 22 months. And I promised him I wouldn't say anything about that until after we close financing.
Good. I'm all for that.
Any other questions? Anything we need to know? No.
Well, I guess I'm just curious. So 22.5 months takes us past our desired start of operation. So what is the interim housing possibility?
We will have an answer to that by the end of the summer, Rod.
Okay.
I think Anita, we've started a short list. Sean is working on a rubric. And I think on Friday, we're going to sort of tee up sort of like the short list against the rubric. And maybe, Woody, for the next board meeting, we can actually put that on the agenda to vet things with the board and get ideas. And it's possible, Ruth, that we actually want a temporary site committee, right? Because I think that would just be helpful. But yeah, so we'll have a rubric and a short list. I'm sure, yeah.
Great, thank you.
I'm under promising, Rod. I know, there's more I could say, but I'd actually love for us to vet possibilities against a rubric. Since we've been here before.
Well, that timetable seems reasonable to me. It isn't like we're opening tomorrow, so it makes sense to look at all the possibilities and pick the best one. So cool. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Any more questions? You can, if anything comes up, you know where to find everyone, so we can always, if you think of something after. All right, well then let's thank you, Sean. We appreciate it.
Okay. I'm gonna drop away then. Bye, everybody.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, so then let's move on to our budget and fundraising update with Rebecca Berlino-Nurick.
Good morning, everyone. Happy now that we've closed financing, and now we're moving back on to the ramp up fundraising phase. And we've just gotten started. I've developed a prospect pipeline, very similar to what we did with the capital fundraising, which I hope to schedule one-on-ones with anyone who'd be willing to revisit for our ramp up phase. We have, and Leslie can chime in here, we have a preliminary budget for ramp up that totals around 2.4 million. And so that's what we're hoping to raise, figuring out the timeline, when we need each phase by when. And I'm also crafting a new narrative and ramp up collateral materials for all of us to have as we make solicitations. Pretty much it. I don't have a sheet to share with you this morning, as we just developed it, or are developing it yesterday.
Just as a reminder, just so we're over communicating those, there's 3 buckets, right? There, the direct expenses as it relates to 3 exits, the Seed Foundation and Cdla, really around both the back office setup and contract, the back office work and the setup work that exit will need to do to get the school up and running, both also in terms of some project construction management and financing management that Laura will do specifically on behalf of exit, continual fundraising that Anita and I will do, and then for the Seed Foundation, continual program design, onboarding for the head of school, some additional onboarding for, onboarding for the student and family engagement individual, and some of that work, construction management, project management, and then helping with hiring for the entire senior team coming in the spring. And then for Cdla, it is the head of school expenses, the family engagement person, which is the next hire for Cdla, which is for student and family recruitment. Then there's just some expenses related to travel and onboarding for both the head of school and the family engagement person. And then we've built in some expense for a formal event in December and maybe a smaller event in the spring. And so when you see the budget, it will fit in those 3 buckets.
And the other thing I just wanted to clarify, which is interesting, the budget that Leslie's talking about is the real budget. The budget we have to show for LACO and get approved is based on only the money we have. So that's just to show that you kind of have a budget that's approved and then a budget that you know, as one gets money, this is the budget, how we'll pay for it.
So the 2.4 budget is our actual operating budget, but what we're going to submit to LACO is just what we have cash on hand to submit.
Correct.
expenses for.
Or cash that we know that we can show is coming in, I should say.
Okay.
So that we can
Thank you.
use.
And all of these materials are, as they're, finalized, will be shared, obviously, with everyone. So.
The budget actually for LACO has to be voted on. And we'll get you the date. Because it's not a school yet, they can't really hold to the dates, but it definitely by June 30th. So I'm saying somewhere June board meeting.
So then, yeah, sorry, between now and June 30th, there will be another meeting.
Right. So that's, yeah.
Okay. All right, any questions related to all of that? No? Yeah.
Just wondering, Becca, is part of the fundraising plan to also think about a funder briefing to update folks whether or not we can do that in person or over Zoom?
That'd be great.
Absolutely. It'll be very similar to kind of the events that we've done in the past over Zoom. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so then if there's nothing else about the budget and fundraising update, we can move on to the head of school update. Woody, do you want to jump in?
Sure. This should not be groundbreaking news for anybody on this call. I'm sure you're all aware, but wanted to take the time, since the proverbial cat is out of the bag, to share some exciting news in open session with everybody. As you all are aware, the Seed Board of Directors has identified and selected the founding head of school for Cdla. Thrilled to share that Ms. Jillian Juman has been appointed as Cdla's founding head of school. Her selection again follows, as you all are aware, a nationwide search and is another critical milestone on the path to Cdla opening next fall. Ms. Juman brings over 20 years of experience in the education space to Seed. Throughout her career, she has dedicated herself to providing communities with access to quality education and ensuring educational equity. She has a proven track record of raising student achievement and has successfully led school networks in the development of strong academic learning practices, leadership development, and building sustainable communities of learning that are both inclusive and innovative. Ms. Juman started her education career as a teacher and has held various education leadership roles both in Los Angeles and New York City, including as a managing instructional superintendent and principal. She holds 2 BAs from the University of California, Santa Cruz, and an MA from NYU, and a master's in education and educational administration from Street College. Ms. Juman will assume the role as the founding head of school for Cdla effective July 1st, 2021. And we believe that Ms. Juman is the leader and partner who will help us build the community and continue the momentum for Cdla towards opening. So to that end, I look forward to sharing further updates about Ms. Juman and getting ready for our inaugural class of 9th graders next August. And thank you again to everyone who participated in the process, either as on the front end throughout or in our continuing strategy sessions that we You can clap for that. I thought that's a really good milestone. I love it.
Yay, so exciting. Thank you, Woody. Very exciting.
Thanks, Woody. Woody, can you remind me from the communications cascade when we're going to actually post something on our website?
Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, Friday, is that what he said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just wanted to check.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't. Got it.
Great. Okay, so moving on to the future meetings, it sounds like we already know there will be at least one between now and June 30th to approve the budget. And there's probably some other things we're going to be looking at between this and June 30th. Are there other things that you wanted to mention, Woody? Anyone else about future meetings? And also we need to talk about audit committee and temporary site committee, which we will fold into some of the future meetings as well. we'll talk about that in the interim also.
Ruth, is it possible we could do a Google poll or some poll? I think we need an extended meeting just to talk about sort of some governance. Like I think there's some, we promised that we would revisit all officers. There's some governance work I think to do in terms of the work of the board. So if we could actually schedule something like, now I'm being completely selfish here. I will physically be in Los Angeles, July the 19th through August the 15th. But I mean, obviously we can do everything via Zoom, but if we could just get an extended board meeting where we can just sort of manage our calendar, right? Like manage committees, manage governance, like just manage how we are going to function in the upcoming year so that the agenda is only forward thinking instead of sort of managing things in the momentary things.
Yes. Yes.
And Ruth has space, but we also have space. So that would I think it'd be great to meet in person.
Yeah.
If everyone's vaccinated. That's
Yeah.
great.
If everyone's comfortable. And and those who don't want to, we can just,
Zoom them in. Yep.
They're changing very quickly here in Los Angeles. So.
Yes, and I think both of your points, as we start to look for dates for next year, I guess I will identify here, thinking, and I'm not entirely sure where Governor Newsom is with the restrictions or those COVID restrictions as it relates to in-person meetings, but we'll also have to consider, physical space and making things accessible for the general public as well, once we move out of this kind of Zoom virtual reality.
Right.
Woody, you're getting really good at this.
I know. You can test it. They can come. We are in the yellow tier in LA County, which is the lowest, I guess. It's where, or the high, well, I don't know what you call it. The least restrictive. We are open.
Not right. We're not completely 100% open, but we're one step away.
Mm-hmm.
So, and our, 12 to 15-year-olds are about to be vaccinated. Hopefully that'll be cleared today. And
the county's expecting herd immunity as of July because of the vaccinations. Yeah.
Oh.
So
in LA, yeah.
In LA County, yeah.
Yeah.
If you could get there before July 19th, that would be amazing.
We're trying. We're trying really hard.
Yeah, I think I'm just really I bought a ticket so that I can sort of force myself. It's almost therapy. Like I bought a ticket to force myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea. I just bought one to a town in Alaska to visit some family for the same reason. I'm terrified, but I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been nowhere. Right. Like, and so the fact that the first thing I'm gonna do is get on a plane is just ridiculous. But
which airline is it that's still keeping the middle seat? Delta? Is it?
No, it's over with May 1st.
All right.
I won't tell you what I did to figure out which kind of jet I was going to be on.
I can imagine. All right, so just to button that up, we will circulate some doodle polls, whatever we use, to schedule this sort of longer, meeting that we've talked about governance. But in between now and June 30th, we will also be approving the budget, and we need to figure out where we're going to put the audit committee and the temporary site committee, where that's going to fit into all of this.
Also reviewing the 990 by end of
right. By as soon as
we'll try, Neela, maybe we'll try our best to make sure it gets to Woody, who can send it out today.
Great.
Ruth, excuse me.
Yes.
I had at least one question, something that we've been discussing that I truly don't understand. What is the temporary site space and how will that operate? And what are we doing with that? What is that?
So Jackie, in light of the timeline for construction, like if we just take 22 months from now, it's going to be past the August 28th opening date. And so we are just sort of anticipating that we're going to need a temporary site to open school. And so part of the goal, and again, I think we've noted this before, that is common. Like we've actually opened in temporary sites in other places. I'm sure you all have seen that happen in schools there locally. And so the 22 months takes us beyond August 28th, which is when school opens. So the temporary site will allow for us to open on time. And our goal is to get it nailed down by the end of the summer so that we can say to families and to staff and faculty, this is where we're going to be.
So how's the residential portion going to be handled?
At the temporary site, like
Oh,
everything.
they will be there too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So imagine either dorm rooms or
Conference center.
retreat center, something that has it all in one. You know,
I'm trying to imagine it.
kitchen, classrooms, and dorms. I know.
Okay.
It's not so easy, but we're going to find it.
They're trying.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
I'm
It's
really optimistic.
Oh yeah, I am too. I'm actually optimistic compared, especially listening to what they've had to do before. So I'm confident we can get there. I just heard Cal State Dominguez Hills, for example, has built new dorms. So that's the example, an example.
I'm rooting for Pepperdine if I have.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yes, let's go to Pepperdine.
Oh, how nice. How do we make that happen?
That would be wonderful.
Let's just stick with the rubric.
Oh, God. All right. Well, let's see. Any other questions? You awesome people. No? You sure? Okay.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, Ruth.
Okay. Well, let's see. It is now 9:41. Thank you all for getting us through all these phases and for being so flexible and available, and it's on such short notice, and digesting so much material. And thank you all. It is now 9:41. The Seed School of Los Angeles County Board of Directors meeting, May 12th, 2021 is adjourned.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See
Thank you all. Take good care. Bye.
You all.